Hey, Mike from BlindsOnLine.com here to show you how to install your brand new 3/4 inch single cell light filtering cellular shade. Alright, when you get your shade and you take it out of the box, it's going to look a little something like this. The first thing we'd like you to do, of course, is to untangle the cord or untwist it from the shade just by turning it around. Easy enough. And once you have that cord removed from the shade, you'll be able to take a quick peek at it. Alright, this is the shade that you've just ordered. That's your 3/4 inch single cell and light filtering, meaning light will pass through, cellular shade. Okay, now the back side of your shade should be white. That's the side of the shade that's going to face the outside of the house. And then of course the colored side will face in. Alright. Now, we've supplied that shade with the heavy-duty head rail and bottom rail. That's an aluminum head rail and bottom rail, guaranteed never to rust, bow, bend, or discolor. And the heavy-duty cord lock, which is actually the meat and potatoes of the shade. That's what holds the shade in place when you lock it and unlock it. Okay, so once you've unpacked the shade, just take that shade and put it aside. And we'll ask you to locate the mounting brackets that came with the shade. Now the mounting brackets look something like this. These are white plastic mounting brackets. These brackets are universal. They can be used for either an inside mount or an outside mount, and we automatically supply these with every shade that's purchased. So now that you have your mounting brackets, we're going to take each bracket and mount the bracket inside the window frame. Of course, this is for an inside mount, meaning that we're going to mount the shade inside the window frame. Alright. Now, if you have a screw gun, that of course makes things go a little bit quicker. If you don't, you can always do it by hand and just put the screws in by hand. But if you take that mounting bracket and place it up into the window frame, we're going to ask that you have the little Phillips head screw that's in the back of the mounting bracket facing down toward the bottom of the window. The pointy part of the bracket will be facing you, and I'd like that pointy part of the bracket to be flush with the front of the window frame if you could. That'll make a nice clean installation. If you prefer it a little further back in the window, that's fine too. It's just a matter of preference. Okay, but for today we're going to mount that flush with the front of the window. Take your screw and drive it straight through the center of the bracket right up into the window frame. And that will hold that bracket in place. Okay? And now we're going to do the same thing for the second bracket. Take the bracket, put it up into the window frame, and just drive one screw through the center, and we have two brackets ready to accept your new shade. Alright, once those brackets are in place, we're going to grab our shade. We're going to release the shade so that we have a good 4 or 5 inches hanging down from the top, just so that when you place this metal rail into the brackets, you don't catch any of the fabric from behind. Okay, sometimes the bracket tends to pinch some of the fabric if you don't release it, so we ask you to just release it a little bit. Take the shade, place it up into the window frame. Now here's the important part. We want the pointy part, the front part of this bracket, to fit into the little groove that's at the very front of the top rail or the head rail. Alright, so we're going to fit that pointy part of the bracket into the top rail on each side, just like that. Okay, we're going to take a look at the shade and we're going to align the shade so that we have an even amount of space between the shade and the inside window frame on each side. Okay, we'll just eyeball that. Once you have it in place and you like the way it looks, you're going to take the butt of your hand and just pop the shade in place. Okay, and that will temporarily hold the shade in place until you can grab a Phillips head screwdriver. Okay. Once you have the Phillips head screwdriver, we're going to ask you to go up behind the shade like this and tighten down on those Phillips head screws. That's going to secure the shade in place. Okay, that'll hold it so that it doesn't fall out and bop someone on the head. Okay, so we're going to tighten those Phillips head screws nice and tight, and that will hold the shade right where you put it. Now guess what? After tightening down on those screws, you're basically done. Your shade is installed. Okay, so now you can release the cord lock by moving the cord toward the inside of the shade and letting the shade down. Okay, and that's basically how you mount your inside mount cellular shade. Now also along with the hardware that we supply, we're going to supply a little clear cord cleat. Okay, and that cord cleat can be placed either on the window casing or off to the side of the window casing, whatever you feel most comfortable with. And the reason for that is that when you pull the shade up and the cord gets kind of long, you can easily just take the string and hang it up on the cord cleat. That'll keep it away from young children and pets so that we don't harm any of our kitties or our pets, okay? And that's the whole reason for that little cord cleat right there. So that's the whole inside mounted shade. Now, if you had ordered your shade to be mounted on the outside of the window frame, all right, we're going to do something a little different, but we're going to use the same brackets that came with your shade, okay? These are the same brackets. Now, you're going to mount these brackets one of two ways. You're either decided to mount these brackets directly to the window trim, all right, just like that. And yeah, we have Velcro holding our bracket up, but you're going to have two screws that are going to go through the two holes and right into the window casing. So that would be what we call a molding mount. Okay, so mount it right to the trim. The other option would be if you wanted to go up above the molding because you didn't want to mount to your molding, in which case we would ask that you order a spacer block. Now the spacer block is a no-charge option at checkout. So if you've ordered an outside mount shade, you can select these at no additional cost, and what this does, it'll keep the bracket far enough away from the window trim so that when the shade goes up and down, it doesn't interfere with the window molding. Now this bracket will get mounted just up above the molding like so, okay? And again, we'll just drive this into the wall with two screws, and that will accommodate the shade for an outside mount. Alrighty, that pretty much sums up the installation of our 3/4 inch single cell light filtering shade. Again, I'm Mike from BlindsOnLine.com, and if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. Thanks.